The first sign that something was terribly wrong came on a rainy Monday morning when Olivia Carter, the senior infrastructure director of a massive national medical supply company, found construction crews tearing apart the operations center she had spent nearly 2 decades designing. While a smiling executive in a tailored navy suit proudly announced that the company's future would no longer depend on old-fashioned hardware, but on a flashy new vision that sounded impressive during investor presentations and completely ignored the realities of running a business that delivered life-saving equipment every single hour. Without introducing himself properly, the executive casually remarked that the server room looked like a museum, prompting Olivia to calmly explain that hospitals, emergency clinics, and thousands of delivery routes relied on those outdated machines every minute of every day. Yet her warning was dismissed with a laugh because the new leadership believed confidence could replace experience and slogans could replace preparation. The young executive's name was Ethan Brooks, the recently appointed president of Northbridge Medical Logistics. And although he possessed endless enthusiasm along with a business degree from an elite university, he had never managed a nationwide technology infrastructure before and assumed every difficult problem could be solved simply by replacing older employees, with younger consultants carrying expensive laptops and fashionable buzzwords. Olivia had survived ransomware attacks, hurricanes, nationwide power failures, and software disasters that nearly destroyed the company years earlier, earning the trust of the founder, Samuel Reed, who had personally asked her to design an emergency continuity system that would automatically secure every critical operation whenever unauthorized leadership changes threatened the stability of the company's digital network. Unlike ordinary backup systems, Olivia's emergency architecture did not destroy information or punish employees, because its sole purpose was to isolate sensitive medical records, halt shipment authorization, freeze financial transactions, and require a carefully documented recovery procedure whenever the system detected that the trusted security authority had disappeared unexpectedly without a verified transition supervised by qualified personnel. Samuel had insisted on this safeguard after witnessing another corporation collapse because a reckless executive ignored cybersecurity warnings. And together they created a detailed governance policy requiring every future leadership team to complete weeks of knowledge transfer before changing responsibility for the organization's digital backbone, believing that protecting patients and customers mattered far more than protecting executive pride. Months later, Samuel retired because of declining health, leaving the board to place Ethan in temporary control. And almost immediately he began replacing experienced department heads with energetic newcomers who spoke confidently about innovation but struggled to explain the difference between operational resilience and marketing strategy during important planning meetings. Every suggestion Olivia offered regarding risk management, disaster recovery, regulatory compliance, and infrastructure stability was labeled negative thinking, while Ethan repeatedly insisted that companies succeeded by moving quickly instead of wasting time discussing worst-case scenarios, creating an atmosphere where caution became unpopular even though millions of customers depended on uninterrupted service. As weeks passed, subtle warning signs surrounded Olivia everywhere she looked, including surprise performance evaluations, mandatory documentation sessions, and constant requests for confidential administrative procedures from an inexperienced systems analyst named Noah, whose enthusiasm exceeded his technical ability by an alarming margin despite Ethan's unwavering confidence that youthful energy would compensate for missing expertise. Olivia patiently documented every conversation, submitted formal risk assessments to senior management, archived copies of security policies approved years earlier by the board, and even scheduled meetings explaining why replacing critical operational authority without following established transition procedures could unintentionally activate protective security measures that would temporarily suspend essential business functions until governance was restored. Late one Thursday afternoon, Olivia received an invitation from Human Resources requesting her presence in a conference room where Ethan, the HR director, and Noah were already waiting beside neatly prepared termination documents, and before she even sat down, Ethan proudly announced that the company required fresh leadership, capable of embracing rapid transformation rather than relying on outdated operational philosophies. Olivia quietly asked whether anyone had reviewed the continuity policies she had submitted only days earlier, but Ethan confidently replied that obsolete paperwork would soon be replaced with modern processes, leaving her no opportunity to explain that the transition protocol itself represented a legally approved security requirement rather than an optional technical preference. Remaining calm despite years of dedication ending within minutes, Olivia professionally transferred standard administrative access to Noah while carefully reminding everyone that security authority required a separate verification sequence supervised by board-approved procedures, yet Ethan interrupted repeatedly. insisting that technical warnings were merely attempts to make herself appear indispensable before walking out with an oversized severance envelope. After surrendering her company identification, laptop, and office keys exactly as instructed, Olivia drove home knowing that the organization's automated continuity framework would soon recognize an unauthorized leadership change and enter protective isolation. Not because anyone programmed revenge into the system, but because executives had deliberately ignored every documented safeguard created to prevent reckless decisions. By early evening, customers began reporting delayed shipment confirmations, regional warehouses experienced authentication failures, supplier portals displayed maintenance notices, and internal communication platforms gradually suspended privileged access. While security verification routines attempted unsuccessfully to confirm the missing authorization required under the company's governance policy. Across multiple distribution centers, employees stared at silent handheld scanners, warehouse supervisors struggled to process emergency orders manually, and managers desperately searched for explanations as automated safeguards restricted sensitive operations exactly as they had been designed years earlier to prevent potential compromise during uncertain leadership transitions. Inside headquarters, confusion spread rapidly because every department blamed another for the growing crisis. While Noah desperately searched technical manuals he barely understood, and Ethan continued insisting the interruption represented nothing more than a temporary software glitch that would disappear after a routine restart, unaware that forcing recovery without following proper procedures could extend the isolation period significantly. Financial executives soon realized payment processing had slowed dramatically, transportation schedules were falling behind nationwide, and major hospital clients demanded immediate explanations regarding delayed deliveries, forcing the board to recognize that what appeared to be a simple personnel decision had quietly evolved into a serious governance emergency affecting the entire organization. One of the board's independent directors finally located Olivia's earlier reports describing every potential consequence almost exactly as they were now unfolding, including highlighted recommendations explaining why operational authority could never be transferred instantly without board oversight and structured technical validation, leaving the meeting room completely silent as executives recognized that the warnings had been received, acknowledged, and ultimately ignored. Corporate attorneys reviewed archived policies signed years earlier by founder Samuel Reed, discovering legally binding language confirming that the continuity framework intentionally prioritized organizational protection over executive convenience whenever approved security succession requirements were violated. After exhausting every internal recovery option, the board contacted Olivia respectfully instead of issuing demands, arranging an emergency virtual meeting where they admitted the company needed her expertise rather than attempting to defend earlier decisions. While Ethan reluctantly acknowledged that dismissing experienced professionals without understanding their responsibilities had produced consequences far beyond anything he had imagined, Olivia listened patiently before explaining that restoring the infrastructure required physical verification, board authorization, updated governance documentation, and a properly structured consulting agreement ensuring operational independence so that future technical decisions would never again become political arguments driven by personal ego instead of professional responsibility. Negotiations continued for several hours until both sides reached an agreement providing Olivia with an independent consulting contract, guaranteed authority over infrastructure governance, public acknowledgement of management mistakes, and formal adoption of stronger succession planning procedures designed to protect the organization long after the immediate crisis ended. Rather than demanding personal revenge, Olivia insisted that every improvement focus on strengthening institutional resilience, expanding employee training, documenting recovery procedures more clearly, and ensuring no future executive could bypass established safeguards without board approval and comprehensive operational review. Escorted by board representatives rather than corporate security, Olivia returned to headquarters late that evening and entered the Secured Operations Center where she calmly completed biometric verification, validated continuity credentials, and executed the documented recovery sequence that gradually restored trusted communication between every protected system throughout the nationwide network. Monitoring screens slowly changed from warning indicators to healthy operational status, distribution centers resumed processing orders, financial gateways synchronized successfully, warehouse equipment reconnected automatically, and exhausted employees across the country applauded when shipments finally began moving once again toward hospitals and customers waiting for essential supplies. In the weeks that followed, Ethan accepted responsibility before the board and was reassigned to a strategic planning role where he could contribute ideas without directing critical technology infrastructure, while Olivia established a respected consulting practice that advised organizations on cybersecurity governance, executive succession planning, and operational resilience based upon lessons learned from years of practical experience. Northbridge Medical Logistics recovered its reputation by investing heavily in technical education, respecting institutional knowledge, and creating a culture where innovation and experience complemented one another instead of competing for influence. Proving that sustainable success always depends upon balancing fresh ideas with the wisdom earned through responsibility. Years later, business schools studied the incident not as a story about personal victory but as an example of leadership accountability, ethical decision-making, and the importance of respecting the people whose quiet dedication keeps essential systems functioning long after headlines fade, reminding audiences everywhere that true professionals protect organizations through preparation rather than popularity and earn trust through consistent action instead of impressive speeches. Please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your friends and family. We create entertaining and inspiring stories for our viewers, and your support helps us continue making great content for you.